So, Assassin's Creed. Executive producer reveals AAA games need to sell 10 million copies to break even. Still alive, but I'm barely breathing. Praying to a god that I don't believe in. So, 10 million. So, for example, Concord, the game that got pulled from shelves and Steam and all that after 2 weeks. That game cost 800 million to make. 800 million. Do you know how many copies they would have to sell in order to even just break even? Now, 10 million is kind of like for games right now where they're costing 300 million. Dragon Age Veilguard cost about 300 million to make, and they only made back about 70 million. They sold about 500 or a million copies, so that's about 70 million. So a million copies got them 70 million. Not even close to what they spent to make the game. So if you're like Concord and you're spending 800 million, and it took like 4 or 5 years or whatever to make, that's a lot. It's better. Well, we'll talk about it when we're done, getting closer to being done. But Mark Alexis Cote, the executive producer of Ubisoft's Assassin's Creed franchise, revealed that AAA games need to sell around 10 million copies in order to break even. During an interview at XDS 24, Cote discussed how video game development costs are increasing year over year. That's because they're more concerned with making the game look nice and pretty and realistic. If you cut that away and just make a fun game, you reduce your cost by a lot. We see it on Steam all the time. Games that don't look that great, but are, fun, sell just as much as AAA games, if not more. Prime example, Five Nights at Freddy's. Hollow Knight. Great game. It's all hand-drawn. And it's a great game. It doesn't have super graphics. And it's sold just fine. These big companies are so concerned with making video games look like movies now, big and cinematic and this. I have a game on that I played for a little bit. It's basically like Ocarina of Time, and it looks more like Ocarina. It's got like N64 graphics, and it's a good game. People don't care about the graphics. Make a good game. If they were to just not worry about the graphics and just focus on a good game, that cost would go from 300 million probably down to what they actually made. It's about 70 million. In which case, they would have, even if they broke even, it would have been better than having a game cost 300 million and then only making 70 million and then not even coming close to even breaking even. So stop worrying about making your games nice and pretty and just start worrying about making good games. Stop partnering with people like Sweet Baby Inc. because all they're going to do is hold you back even more. That's going to push more people away from the game because everyone knows who Sweet Baby Inc. is. And anything attached to Sweet Baby Inc., we know it's going to suck. And that's going to push players away. So stop worrying about making the games look like freaking movies and being as cinematic and realistic as possible. Do not partner with Sweet Baby Inc. and you won't have to worry about money. Make a good game and it'll be basically a money printing machine. Again, Five Nights at Freddy's. Does it look spectacular? Nope. Is it a complicated game? Nope. Was it fun? Yep. He shared, we are in a complex and tough economical situation right now, and at least in the game industry. We've all seen costs rising, our profits shrinking. In a way, there's a lot of very, very intense competition. No, you're all in the same boat because basically every company, especially ones that work with Sweet Baby Inc., are in the same boat. You're all failing. None of you is any better than the other. You're all failing equally. But the cost of building games has probably increased tenfold since the first Assassin's Creed, and the one that's coming out this year. Both cost complexity amount of people has probably risen by a factor of 10. When you look at who succeeds, at least in a AAA space, uh, so what I'm going to say applies to most likely premium games or like traditional kind of AAA games. You have 10 games in any given year that will sell about 10 million copies. The reason I'm quoting the 10 million copies kind of high mark, is from what I've seen and how I've seen our costs, and costs of competitors and everybody. Everything leaks in our industry, so you have privileged information on where the competition is going. but I mostly estimate that 10 million copies, give or take 2 million copies, is most what you need to break even. Again, that's what happens when you spend upwards to 4 or 5, even 800 million to create a game. I mean, you should know supply and demand. Don't make things that people aren't demanding. It's like movies. Don't make movies with characters that aren't in demand. Like, I just did one for Kraven the Hunter. He's a great character, but in a standalone movie, if it was Kraven the Hunter versus Wolverine, or Kraven the Hunter versus Spider-Man, or Kraven the Hunter versus Hulk, it would sell. But if it's just Kraven the Hunter, no one wants to see just a spin-off movie of Kraven the Hunter. No one was asking for it. No one wanted it. Supply and demand. Know what your people are demanding, and then but companies, they you can clearly hear people wanting good games. They are demanding good games, so it'd be these companies uh be in their best interest to supply us with good games. But we're demanding good games, and instead they're doing the opposite. These games that take upwards to $800 million to create, they try to make them as realistic as possible to where you're reading and watching it most of the time like a movie. But they're doing crap like forcing, the DEI crap in there, which takes away from the characters, because they're not genuine characters anymore. They're just stereotypes of whatever, diversity they were shoving in there. And people are like, okay, I'm getting a refund, or people don't want to play it. Kote broke down what those 10 games look like. Out of those 10, you'll have probably 3 sports games. You'll have 4 games on established franchises, and probably 2 or 3 games that are surprise hits coming from nowhere. But that leaves very, very little room and wiggle room for success. Well, that's why you also want to try to be different. It's like, the sports games are always going to be popular. So staying away from sport, not wanting to make those games, probably a great idea. But then you see with franchises that have been established, like, just keep doing what's made them so successful. That's the one reason why Dragon Age failed. It strayed from what made it successful in the first place. It strayed away from that. The story was terrible. The characters, again, were just stereotypes. It's like, when you have an established IP like that, it should just be, the game sells itself. It's just make the game the way you have been. It's like Mario or Zelda. There's a reason why they don't really change the formula that much, because The formula that was created back in the early 80s, it still works. So they're not going to change something that they know works. Whether it be the newest Mario game, with Brothership, or, the game that just came out, Echoes of Wisdom. It stays true to what make Mario and Zelda fun. And that's how they've been able to survive for the last 40 years. But these companies, they don't seem to understand that. And that's why I've said, despite what you think about Nintendo, business practices or whatever, they know how to make games. Again, Mario, Zelda, Donkey Kong, Kirby, Metroid, Star Fox. Name another console or company that has that many recognizable characters and IPs. You can't. You'll have Sony, like, PlayStation's got like Spyro or Crash, but the numbers still fail in comparison, pale in comparison to the Nintendo, who's so. So I'm trying to steer clear of Assassin's Creed franchise through that, I'm trying to steer the Assassin's Creed franchise through that. A little bit later, he noted that Ubisoft is not only competing with other developers, but are also competing with themselves and their own back catalog. When you come out with an Assassin's Creed game, you're not only competing against the competition, you're competing against your own back catalog, right? So if you've released a hit game like Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and you come out with a new game, but your old game is 6 years old now, and it still looks pretty good. It's scaled very well technologically. Speaking with new consoles, we've released patches to make it run on 4K, etc. And you have it for $20. So the $80 game that I come out with better be very, very good. And again, that's something I say this all the time. Because they even say right there about $80. But nowadays, you're spending $80 of your hard-earned money on a subpar product. Whether it be game-breaking bugs right off the bat that don't really get fixed, or a terrible story, unoriginal, uninspired characters, whatever the case is, they keep producing these games and expecting you to pay your, especially in the economy right now, they're expecting you to pay your hard-earned money for a subpar product. It's like they're not even trying anymore with quality. They basically hope that the name alone will be enough to sell. Cotes' comments are damning for the company, as its recently released AAA Star Wars Outlaws game allegedly only sold 1 million units in the first month, which is terrible. When asked about the current sales curve, CEO Yves Guillemot completely punted. He was asked by a BMO investor, on Star Wars Outlaws, obviously, off to a slower start than you guys wanted. Can you provide a little color into the sales curves there more recently? Have you guys started to see things pick up? Can you talk about any discounting you might be doing or strategies for discounting in the holiday period would be helpful? Guillemot replied, on Outlaws, what we can say is that the 3 title update that we delivered at the same time, we've been observing substantial positive community sentiment improvement. The biggest update is still to come by November 21st, which it is now 25th. And it will come out on the same day as the first big story pack and the launch for Steam. So we are putting ourselves in a position to have a must-play game that should address a mainstream audience for the busy season. Also to be a long-term... Wow, he's looking optimistic, isn't he? He continued, it has great Why you always lying? It has great quality, and the team wanted to make sure that we will remove a few frictions and then implement some gameplay mechanics that will certainly delight the players. Oh yeah, delighting. Oh yeah, it's delighting characters there. Oh yeah. There are so many players playing the game right now. Oh gee willikers, there are so many. As for how the game is performing on Steam, it does not look good at all. Not good at all. The game has only hit a peak concurrent player count of just 651 on its release day. To put that in context, Concord, which was shut down by Sony less than 2 weeks after release, hit an all-time peak of 697. Where's a They're AAA game developers. Your budgets are too big. Learn how it was done in the past. Learn how, yeah, like Farm Simulator do it to exactly. You don't need big, fancy-looking, complicated games. Simplistic games will work. If you want to have an action RPG, you don't need to make it look like a damn movie in order for it to sell. Just focus on the game. A good story, rich, engaging characters that actually make you care about them, and good gameplay. And especially if it's based on an established IP that has been around for 20 years, just focus on what made those games good in the past and just keep doing it. Stop trying to force things in there that just don't need to be there. The graphics, you don't need the graphics. You don't. There is this very, very small group of people who care about that stuff, but the majority of players don't give a crap. It's like Dragon Age. It's like, oh, we make the graphics look so nice, but it's a linear game. You can't really explore. So all those fancy graphics just go to waste because it's not an open world game. You're set on your path. So all that money invested into making the game look nice, completely worthless because you can't explore all the details and all the work that they put into the world and its environment. Um, it's wild to me that they know this is happening and are still doing it. Makes one wonder why so many games have gambling aspects to them now. The gambling and freemium helped bring in record profits, which gave some AAA a security blanket to such economic losses. However, other companies like Embracer and Square Enix are in a free fall because of this. Yeah. And we gamers have lost out on the quality games like Deus Ex sequel, or we get woke stuff or dumbed down games like VTMB. I mean, yeah. Um, that's another thing that people are just tired of as well. Um, yeah, Square Enix is really bad, especially with it, yeah, but microtransactions and like the whole freemium type thing is just, I mean, you can have a lot of free games and actually have them good. Like I've said, I play Genshin Impact. It's a free to play game, but it's actually really, really, really good. And when I have the money, I'll, you know, spend a little bit just to kind of support the game. But you don't have to play. You don't have to pay anything to play it. Um, but yeah, the fact that you need to sell 10 million copies nowadays just to break even, that's pathetic. That's pathetic. Like I said, graphics, trying to make it look realistic, that's where most of the money's going. It's not going into the story or the writing. Maybe music might take a little bit of, but trying to make the game look as realistic as possible and make it look like a cinematic type experience, that's where all the money's going. Don't worry about that and just worry about making a good game. If Assassin's Creed came out looking like a PlayStation game, as long as it was good, no one would care. Again, look at Five Nights at Freddy's. Look at Hollow Knight. They don't look advanced. They don't look super special or realistic, but they're fun games. And that's what, when you play a game, that's what you're wanting. You're wanting a game that's fun, a game that you want to, want to play. If you want to watch a movie, you'll just go watch a movie. You're not playing a game to watch a movie. So, but this companies just don't get it anymore. They don't. They're just hollow shells of what they used to be, and they don't care. They don't care anymore, because you would think after a string of just one bad release after another, after another, after another, after another, after another, that they would pick up on what they're doing wrong, but they don't. So either they're completely just completely stupid and inept, or they don't care. Maybe it's a bit of both. But hey, what do I know? What do I know? Anyway, that's gonna do it for me. You guys know the drill. I'll see you guys later. Bye, guys.